do want to continue the conversation on college basketball, but I do want to go in a little bit of a different direction, okay? So obviously we know we are smack dab in the middle of March Madness. NCAA tournament is going on. Sweet 16 starts on Thursday. But I want to talk about a team that is not in the Sweet 16, but a team that remains a nationally relevant talking point even 4 or 5 days after they were eliminated from the NCAA tournament, and that's the Kentucky Wildcats, okay? By now we all know what happened on Thursday. They lose to St. Peter's. It's a historic loss. And on Monday, John Calipari really for the first time sort of publicly addressed the loss. Okay, he obviously had his post-game media availability on Thursday. The weekend passes, and on Monday, he has his final coaches radio show of the season. Obviously, it's something he does every single week. This was the final one all season long, and it is worth noting, it was not live. He did not take live calls. It was pre-recorded, but it was really where he talked about this St. Peter's loss for the first time. I didn't listen to it from start to finish, but my understanding was really that he actually addressed essentially every big topic that you would want to hit on and you would want to hear about if you were a Kentucky fan. The loss, how it happened, why it happened, how things get fixed, what do we got to do next, how do we move on. My understanding was he did a good job of answering the tough questions even if he didn't take live phone calls. But I bring it up because one thing that he did address, I actually thought in a rare moment for our current media landscape, I thought it actually went a little bit underreported, and that's what I want to talk about now, and that is the status of Shaedon Sharpe, okay? And I will try to be brief, set up who Shaedon Sharpe is. I think most of you know who he is, but for those who don't, just a quick 30-second refresher. He was the number 1 high school player in the class of 2022, decided to reclassify and enroll in Kentucky in January, obviously removing himself from this current high school class. Was projected to be a lottery pick when he entered the draft in 2023, comes to Kentucky, and about midway through his time there, really about late January, early February, Kentucky decides, you know what? Yes, he is on campus, but we are not going to play him. Short time after that, we find out that he is in fact eligible for the NBA draft this coming spring because of his age and because of his high school when he graduated. And so it kind of became this thing of Kentucky has this potential superstar on their bench, but they are going to decide not to play him. And now there is a real possibility that he will not be back at Kentucky next year and he will never play a game at Kentucky. And so all year long, Calipari has kind of danced around the topic, and we'll talk about some of his previous comments. But the conversation that I want to talk about now, and the quote that John Calipari had on Monday's radio show that I thought got completely brushed under the rug, he was asked directly about Shaedon Sharpe. And for the past month, 2 months, 3 months since he enrolled, all year long, it's been Shaedon Sharpe's going to be with us next year. That's the plan. We expect to have him here. We expect to lead the team. Well, on Monday, John Calipari switched his tune, asked about Shaedon Sharpe. Here's what he said. Well, we sat down and talked to him. And I talked to him and I talked to his mom and dad. I think he's got to explore. In other words, explore the NBA draft, the possibilities where he could potentially be drafted. But he's got to make a decision on, all right, do I want this right now? Am I ready for this right now? Is it where I thought it was or where people are saying? As you go through the process, the information comes back from the NBA, not an agent or anybody else around you. It comes from the NBA. You have a better idea of what everything is, and until these kids get all that information, it's hard. So that was John Calipari's comments, and it sounds like John Calipari, for a month where he said, I plan on having Shaedon Sharpe back, now all of a sudden he has changed his tune, and he says that Shaedon Sharpe could and plans on declaring for the draft and exploring his options. And so right now, first of all, I said, Cal, what the heck? Where did that come from? But then two, I want to ask you, Kentucky fans, and I want to talk about this over the next few minutes. How mad should you guys and girls be about this news, and specifically about what John Calipari said on Monday? Because to me, this felt like a huge topic, and I don't feel like anybody talked about it. And so in terms of the bigger picture, what I would say is, first of all, I do think in some ways you cannot blame John Calipari, okay? My understanding is that when they initially started recruiting him, it was always the plan for him to enroll in 2022. When they initially started recruiting him, there was no expectation that he was going to enroll midway through the year. Then there were some complications with his high school. Can he play? Can he not play? All that good stuff. And they just decided, you know what, we're going to bring him. I take that back. His team decided it would be in his best interest to get to Kentucky, work out with the team, practice with the team, all that good stuff. And so I don't believe that this was some grand scheme from the beginning. And I do believe when they initially got the commitment, the plan was to have him on campus for the 2022-2023 season. And clearly things changed over the course of the time between when he committed and obviously when he enrolled in campus. I don't think you can blame John Calipari for that. I will also say that I don't know how much say John Calipari actually had in the decision once he got to campus whether to play or not. I know it sounds crazy. I know he's the coach. I know he's paid $8.5 million a year. But to me, when I look at this situation, it's like I said, the day that he announced his reclassification and the day that he announced, or the school really announced, that he would not play during the 2021-2022 season, what did I say? I said I never expected him to play. I also don't expect him to be back because if we're being completely honest, in 2022 and really before it, now it's just above board, but in 2022, all these guys have agents. And an agent's job isn't to do what's best for Kentucky basketball. It's not to do what's best for John Calipari. It's to do what is best for his client or her client or whomever is representing Shaedon Sharpe or helping him navigate everything. And so I don't know how much say John Calipari had. I'm guessing that the agent didn't want the kid to go out there in the middle of an SEC season when everybody is playing well, everybody is playing, the team has been together forever. And if you send the kid out there and he's not ready to go, all you can do is potentially hurt his draft stock. So I didn't blame John Calipari when he decided not to play him because I didn't think he had much of a choice in it. I also didn't blame John Calipari because the team was winning at the time. I know things went bad, and I know even after the St. Peter's game, John Calipari suggested, hey, we reconsidered this, but we decided not to do it. So I don't necessarily blame John Calipari for not playing him, and I don't know how much say John Calipari even had. But the one place that I do think you can blame John Calipari for, and if this kid declares, and he sounds like he's going to declare, and if this kid leaves, I do think you can blame John Calipari for one thing, and I think it's a metaphor for everything that is going on right now with John Calipari, Kentucky. Why was the messaging completely different when he decided to reclassify, when he enrolled, and when he decided to hold him out than it was the day after the season? That is where I think there is frustration, and that is where I think a Kentucky fan should be frustrated, and I think it's a bigger metaphor for what's going on with John Calipari right now, who just seems not to have the pulse of his program and of his program's fan base. Let me explain why. Okay? So I just told you what John Calipari said on Monday about the Shaedon Sharpe deal, and I'll abbreviate it, but here's the first sentence or two. Well, we sat down and talked to him. You know, I talked to him and I talked to his mom and dad. I think he's got to explore and he's got to make a decision on blah, 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 blah. So that was the messaging on Monday. And if that had been the messaging all along, I think Kentucky fans have nothing to complain about. If that had been the messaging since day one, that we're always going to explore, we're always going to consider. By the way, people in the media like me have been saying since day one, they're going to explore. He's going to declare. When he declares, he's going to be a lottery pick and he's never going to play. If that had been the messaging day one, that would be fine. Here's the problem, though. I went back and looked what John Calipari said the day that they announced that Shaedon Sharpe would not play. Here is what John Calipari said on February 7th of this year. After talking with Shaedon and his parents, we want to end all speculation by again saying that he will not play for us this season. This is the important part. He is committed to bettering himself and our team in practice this year and being better prepared to lead us next season. So in literally 6 weeks, we went from he is going to be better prepared to lead us next season to now it's he's got to explore. And so to me, this is where the Kentucky fans should be mad. Not with the fact that this decision is being made, because we knew this was probably going to happen all the time. But it's with the messaging from John Calipari. There was a way for John Calipari to handle this differently all along. You don't have to say he's definitively coming back, and you don't have to definitively say he's going to go. But if guys like me from 3,000 miles away know, hey, this kid probably is going to go pro, why can't John Calipari just say that? Why can't John Calipari from the beginning, and again, I get that there's agents involved. I get that there's outside people that John Calipari can't control that want what's best for the kid. But John Calipari could have said from the beginning, this is all he had to say. Listen, we're happy to have Shaedon on campus. He is not playing this year because it is not in his best interest. I certainly hope he'll be back. I would love to coach him in game settings, the things that he said on Monday. But that will all be determined after the season. That is what he should. Why did you have to throw in the part where you said, and I look forward to him leading us next season? Because this, to me, is not just about Shaedon Sharpe, but it's a bigger metaphor for what's going on in Kentucky basketball right now. The biggest problem with John Calipari and the fan base is not that they lost to St. Peter's, although it certainly doesn't help. It's that they feel like they never get a straight shot from John Calipari ever on anything. When he lost on Thursday, what was the excuse? Well, my guys have never been here before. I tried to tell them. We tried to get them ready, but they've never been here before. Guess what? Neither had St. Peter's. Nobody on St. Peter's had ever played in an NCAA tournament either. Now they're in the Sweet 16. Years before, it's we're too young, we're too this, we're too that, it's COVID, we're away, we can't do this, we can't have team bonding. I get that real life stuff happens. I get that last year, for example, everything that could go wrong did, and it wasn't just Kentucky that struggled. Duke missed the tournament. Michigan State was out in a play-in game and got stuck in a play-in game. UCLA was in a play-in game. Of course, they were able to advance to the Final Four. Louisville was out of the tournament, and this isn't an anti-Louisville thing. 2021, a lot of things went wrong. I understand those excuses. But you can't say in a season where you were ranked in the top 10 for most of it, oh my goodness, well, we weren't ready because none of our guys have been here before. Well, guess what? Neither had anybody at St. Peter's. And so to me, that is a metaphor for what is the biggest problem at Kentucky right now, which is a disconnect between the coach and the fan base. The fan base never feels like they're getting a straight shot, and this is just another metaphor for that. And I understand the frustration of the fan base in this case. I understand where you're mad. I understand why you're frustrated with this whole situation, and I get why people are starting to tune out what Calipari has to say because you never feel like you're getting a straight deal. To take it a step further, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Shaedon Sharpe is back. But what I would also say is this exact scenario could not have possibly happened at the worst time. So first of all, you're coming off the worst regular season basically in program history, followed by the worst NCAA tournament loss, if not the worst loss ever in program history. Now you had the number one player on campus in America, and he never played a second for you before he goes to the NBA. And to me, that's where Calipari's got to be worried. Because as I said on Friday's show, I don't believe that there is a single thing that John Calipari can do at this point to win back the fan base until next year's NCAA tournament. Now, if he goes back to the tournament, he goes to a Final Four, wins the national championship in 2023, and we have no idea what the roster will look like, that's a little bit different. But this offseason, I've said, I don't think there's anything he can do. I don't think there's a transfer he can get. I don't think there's a high school commitment he can get. I don't think there's a shakeup to his coaching staff, nor do I think he should shake up his coaching staff. I don't think there's a shakeup to his coaching staff that can happen. And so I bring it all up to say this was the worst possible thing that could happen at the worst possible time because he needs guys like Shaedon Sharpe in his program, and it was already going to be a year from now, March 2023, the first time that you could actually win back the fan base by winning the biggest games that matter during the course of this season. Now you're giving us this nonsense about we're going to see, and he's got a test, and he's got a this, and he's got a that. This is bad timing for it all. So we'll see what happens. And by the way, it's bad timing because you also need that kid to actually have success during the regular season. But let me wrap by saying this. I've never believed for a second, the second that he reclassified, the second that it was officially announced. And by the way, the day he reclassified, go back and listen to that show. When everybody else was saying, oh, he can't go to the draft, I said, yeah, he can. Just wait. It's going to come out. He can go pro after this year. And I said at the time, I said he's not going to play at Kentucky. Some of it's out of John Calipari's control. But why did you have to make stuff up? Why did you have to put out the stuff about leading us next year? Why couldn't it have been, we'll wait and see. We'll evaluate after the season. We have to do what's best for the kid. The kid and his family always come first. John Calipari, you're losing the PR war. I don't blame you if this kid leaves, but you got to be better with the PR coming off the worst loss in recent program history.